Everybody, Jimmy Smith with a breakdown pre-fight of UFC 243. I don't know if this will ever air because I'm having a lot of trouble uploading stuff to YouTube recently. That's why I haven't seen videos before and after the last couple UFCs is that they haven't loaded properly. I'm going back and forth with YouTube tech support to figure it out, and it's been a nightmare. So I don't know if this will ever see the light of day. I'll try and upload it. Anyway, 243, of course, the main event. Robert Whitaker, Israel Adesanya. Outside of the top two, the main and co-main, even the top three, there's not a lot on this card. Some interesting fights that might end up being good, but not a lot of name value, star power outside of the main event. Iaquinta, of course, always a scrapper. Dan Hooker, the up-and-comer, we'll see what he has. Tai Tuivasa versus Sergey Spivak. Nice, but that's a showcase, I think, for Tai Tuivasa. Let's start out with that one. Tai Tuivasa, Sergey Spivak. I called a couple of Tai Tuivasa's fights like a little bit smaller Mark Hunt. Certainly cut from that mold. Heavy hitter, stocky, strong, good puncher, gets inside, a lot of energy. He's one of those guys who really plays up to the hometown crowd, the whole shoey thing, and he has a great shtick to go with his skills, but he's lost two in a row to established veteran talent. Junior Dos Santos, Blagoy. And the problem is, not problem, we might see where he is in his career, where entertaining, fun, got a squeaker against Andrei Arlovski and fell short. So he's had three veteran names, and he's 1-2 against those three, and could be 0-3. That was a close one, Andrei Arlovski in Chicago. So his ability to get in and knock anybody out is great. He hasn't yet shown that X factor that you generally need for success in the top 10, top 5 contender status in the UFC, in the heavyweight division. He hasn't shown that X factor. He gets in and he brawls and he hits really hard. Fantastic. A lot of fighters get inside and hit really hard in the heavyweight division. That isn't abnormal. That isn't weird. If you look at guys like Junior Dos Santos, has crazy range. Not only does he hit hard, he turns over punches in weird ways that fighters just don't see coming. Andrei Arlovski in his prime had real hand speed. Great combinations. Alistair Overeem is incredibly versatile in terms of his kickboxing attack. Elbows, knees, punches, great combinations, great technician. So every fighter in the heavyweight division has something beyond, I hit hard. The one that maybe doesn't is Francis Ngannou, who hits so hard that kind of is his superpower. He in a division of people that hit hard, he hits harder than everyone. And he's incredibly solid. Everybody kind of forgets that. But I don't see that in Tai Tuivasa. I don't see that X factor that makes him, boy, I see this guy being a contender. Is he entertaining? Yes. Will he always have fights, especially in front of the hometown crowd, that gets everybody hyped up and gets everybody excited? Yes. Will he win this fight? I think so. Spivak hasn't been past the second round. He's only been past the first round once. Never been past the second round. He's one of those guys who made his UFC debut, got knocked out by Walt Harris in the first round. He's a finisher. What they want, and the logic of signing this fight is, Tai Tuivasa comes out, hometown crowd goes nuts. It's a heavyweight stand-up slugfest. Tai Tuivasa wins. That's what they're looking forward to in this fight. That's why this fight was made. Will it work out that way? Maybe, maybe not. But that's what I would put my money on. That was certainly the thinking going in. You don't want to put Tai Tuivasa versus a top 10, top 15 guy that might have a little too much for him technically. No, not in Australia. You want a big slugfest, knocks you down, does a shoey, throws it in the crowd, all that stuff. That's what you want. And I think that's what you're going to get. Have we seen as far as Tai Tuivasa can go? No. But I haven't yet seen that thing that's really going to propel him into the stratosphere of the heavyweight division, just because you need more than I hit hard. And right now, Tai Tuivasa, he's comparatively athletic and quick for his size, but I haven't seen that X factor yet. And I don't think we're going to see it in this fight. I don't think we have to see it in this fight. He's taking on another brawling heavyweight in Spivak, who's 9-1. So he doesn't need much more than, I think, brawling ability in this fight. He's fighting a guy who's a quick starter just like he is. He's fighting a guy who's a finisher just like he is. He just has a little bit more than this guy. And so that's looking to set the tone right before the co-main event of, boom, big knockout by the Australian. He goes crazy, big celebration. All right, now co-main. So I think that's what's going to happen. I think Tai Tuivasa knocks out Sergey Spivak probably in the first round. Beyond that, you have the Dan Hooker, Iaquinta fight. Iaquinta is his nickname should be the spoiler because that's what he does. He seems to always take on talent that he's supposed to be a stepping stone for and finds a way to win. That's kind of been his thing. He's the underdog. He's the dark horse. He's the guy you're not necessarily rooting for but comes out and wins. I think he's great. I love watching Iaquinta fight. I love his attitude. The fact that he sells homes on the side is great. But he has this working class, blue collar kind of vibe that really makes him, I don't know about a fan favorite, but an easy guy to root for, in a sense. He doesn't have that star power of like everybody gets behind Iaquinta every time he fights, but he's an easy guy to root for. He's the East Coaster, he's the city guy, he's the hardworking guy that shows up to the gym every day and puts in work and can beat a lot of guys in this division. That being said, this is another opportunity or another chance for him against Dan Hooker to take on the up-and-comer, the younger guy, and wipe him off the map and send him further down the ladder. Like, no, you're not ready yet. Young buck. You got to take on the grizzled veteran. And Iaquinta is increasingly playing that role in the UFC of the grizzled, tough spoiler who comes in and fights hard and tests you, and he is a test of if you're ready for the elite level. I wouldn't say gatekeeper necessarily because I think he does have title aspirations himself. It's going to be a while until he gets there. Had a great fight, of course, with Vince Khabib, if you remember that. He hung in there and did way better than anyone expected. But it's always been that ability to kind of reach beyond and go past what you think he's capable of. With Dan Hooker, when he beat, of course, knocked out Jim Miller, the win over Gilbert Burns, I thought was exceptional. I think Gilbert Burns is a real talent. Knocked him out. Obviously, a step back against Edson Barboza. Came back with a knockout over James Vick. But this is a guy who's right now fighting his best in this last streak. Aside from Edson Barboza, he's doing really great work. And this is one of those, okay, is this guy ready for that top 10, top 7 talent upgrade? Can he get up there and really be a contender in a division that is just loaded with absolute monsters? And I think this is his biggest test in that regard. So, obviously, Gilbert Burns, Jim Miller, very talented. Edson Barboza, extremely talented. James Vick, very talented. But Iaquinta is cut from kind of a different cloth. He doesn't have a spectacular physical attribute. He's not super talented. He's not blazingly fast. He hits hard, but he's not a one-shot knockout guy who has hands from hell. He's just not that guy. He's just a hard-working, good wrestler with solid boxing. That's what Iaquinta is great at. And he's been through the fire so many times that nothing really overwhelms him. So you're not going to come out with some flashy, crazy stuff and, dazzle Iaquinta. It doesn't work that way. So this is a test of his ability to get through that hard-working, tough veteran to see if he's ready for top 5, top 7 talent. Do I think he is? That's tough. It's a tough pick just because it's a collision to me of two guys. Normally, you'd go with the younger guy, especially coming off a loss of Donald Cerrone, which Iaquinta is. But since 2014, what do we have? Ross Pearson, Joe Lazon, Jorge Masvidal, obviously a little bit of controversial decision there. Diego Sanchez, Kevin Lee. He's beaten some really excellent fighters. You just have to wonder if and when the years catch up to him and that he has trouble with the younger, hungrier, slightly slicker, more versatile guy, which is what Dan Hooker is. If I had to put money on this one, people like picks, I'll go with Dan Hooker. I like Iaquinta a lot. I think Hooker gets it done. I think he's a little bit sharper going into this fight. Iaquinta certainly has skills and incredibly tough. I think he needs to get his takedown going to win for sure. I think it'll be mostly a stand-up battle. I think that'll favor Hooker. It might be a little bit of an upset, but I favor Hooker in this one. The next one, of course, the main event. Everybody's looking forward to Robert Whitaker versus Israel Adesanya. I love Israel Adesanya. Called his UFC debut. I love watching the guy fight. When you study this guy and you really sit down and look at him and in his fight with Brad Tavares, he's something special. When you look at when he was first making his UFC debut and I was looking at his past fights, first thing I thought was, this guy's something extraordinary. He's just a little bit different. The comparisons to Anderson Silva, I think, are very, very fair. I like his unorthodox style. I like everything about him in terms of his style, in terms of his confidence, in terms of his physical ability. That's the upside. The downside, hasn't been through a lot of tough fights with great talent. He was brought up the right way. I'm not saying in a bad way. He fought Martin Vettori, nice. Rob Wilkinson, okay. Brad Tavares was kind of his test if he's really ready, fighting a ranked guy. Past that one with flying colors. Derek Brunson's tough. Anderson Silva's past his prime, but still tough. Kelvin Gastelum is the only championship level guy that he fought. Was Kelvin Gastelum. And obviously a fight of the night, all-time great fight, really back and forth. But Kelvin Gastelum, to me, is the fringe of the top of this weight class. He's there, but I wouldn't put him with the Yoel Romeros. I wouldn't put him with the Robert Whitakers. I wouldn't put him with the elite of the elite. Probably about fifth right now. And yeah, he won and it was a great performance. But when you look at someone like Robert Whitaker, that guy's been through the meat grinder over and over again. Yoel Romero twice. Jacare Souza, Derek Brunson, Brad Tavares, Uriah Hall. I mean, the thing to me is that 2 wins over Yoel Romero, who is the freak of the division, unbelievably physically talented, wars, and he won both of them. Knocked out Jacare back when Jacare was, I think, you could say he's at the tail end now, but right when he was in his prime and everybody thought Jacare would get a title shot with a win, he knocks him out. So Robert Whitaker's been through tougher fights. He's been at the elite level longer, but a lot of layoffs over the last few years. That's a big deal. Fought twice in 2017, once in 2018, and now he's fighting Israel Adesanya. Had a lot of time off and a lot of injuries. So the upside for Robert Whitaker is he's been through more. He knows he belongs here. He's a champion. He's fought championship level talent. But with the time off he's had and the injuries he has had, the difficulty with a guy like Israel Adesanya is his timing is funky. He's excellent offensively and defensively. You got to read a guy like that. And reading somebody who has that kind of style is more difficult with time off. You just haven't. You got to take a while to get in the flow and figure out his timing and range and all those things. Against a basic striker, it's a little bit easier. Against Israel Adesanya, you better be sharp. Now, I'm not saying Robert Whitaker won't be, but it's more of a question mark with the time off he's had, taking on a guy with a funky and unorthodox style who's hard to read on the best of days. So the difficulty that Robert Whitaker's facing is injuries have kind of sidelined him a bit. And he hasn't been as active as I'd like to see him in a division this good and this stacked. Israel Adesanya has a ton of physical talent. I love his style. I love his confidence. But he hasn't been tested like Robert Whitaker's been tested. So those are really the factors I'm kind of looking at. The smart pick, the money pick, is Robert Whitaker. He's just been through more. We know what he can do on the feet. An excellent kickboxer. He can take advantage of a lot of things Kelvin Gastelum took advantage of. I didn't think Kelvin Gastelum would have the time he had getting inside and landing big punches. I thought he would have a lot of trouble doing that, and he did it in a very close fight. He did it with regularity. So if Kelvin Gastelum can get in, who has a much more basic striking style than Robert Whitaker, I think Robert Whitaker can get in. And Robert Whitaker doesn't have to get as far in as Kelvin Gastelum. It's very simple. He's taller. He's rangier. He doesn't need to be a pocket fighter right in the chest of Israel Adesanya. So I would say tactically, experience-wise, Robert Whitaker gets the edge. Now, I read recently, today, right before I started this, that now Robert Whitaker is the underdog. Wow, I found that hard to believe. I could not believe that. Given that, I would definitely put my money on Robert Whitaker. I'm very on the fence about this fight because I really, really like Israel Adesanya. But if Robert Whitaker is firing on all cylinders and the time off hasn't really affected his timing, his ability to start quickly, I'd go with Robert Whitaker in this. He's just been through a lot, and he has the stand-up style that I don't think Israel Adesanya just blows him away with his slickness. Now, it could happen. Israel Adesanya is deadly, very hard puncher with a very creative style, but I think Robert Whitaker has the tools to come out on top. So that would be my pick, Robert Whitaker. That would be the smart money, in my opinion. But I think it's going to be an excellent fight, and I can't wait to see it. But we'll see how it goes. But I think Tai Tuivasa gets in, gets a knockout, probably very, very quickly. I also think that Dan Hooker wins over Al Iaquinta. I think it's going to be close, but I think it's mostly a stand-up battle. And I think Hooker wins it. And I think in the main event, got to go with the champ, Robert Whitaker. But it's going to be a close and very, very difficult fight. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will be doing the SiriusXM post-fight show with Anthony Smith on SiriusXM Saturday at 1 in the morning. So tune in if you can, and I hope you guys can call in and give me somebody to talk to, because it's a long shift after you watch a pay-per-view. But check it out. Hope you enjoy, and I'll be back with a post-fight breakdown afterward. Thank you.